event that we're having here in the city. Our first was earlier in May of this year, and then we also had another event in New York in April. So we're excited to have this event here tonight, and I'm Chris DeLuca. I've been running the Ultralight Startups program here in Boston for the past couple of years, and our typical events are monthly, and we invite internet startup companies to pitch innovative technologies that are early stage and presenting to a panel of internet investors. So tonight what you're seeing is everything focused on the energy sector. We have 8 innovative energy tech startups pitching to 4 energy VCs tonight. So you're gonna see companies pitching for 3 minutes, and they'll be pitching around their company, nailing some key points around the business model and the technology, and you'll hear some questions and evaluations and feedback. So the objective is for the panel to give feedback to these companies, to have some solid takeaways to bringing their company to the next level. Okay? I'd like to introduce quickly Graham Lawler, who's my co-host here tonight. So Graham.
Awesome, thank you, Chris. My name is Graham Lawler. I'm the founder of Ultralight Startups, which started about 5 years ago in New York City, where I'm based. We host pitch events similar to this, as Chris was saying, in New York every single month. Some of them are about energy, some of them are about internet startup companies. Today is about energy startup companies. So welcome, glad you could all make it.
Thank you, Graham. So just quick rundown of how the event's going to run. So we obviously had pizza, and hopefully you're all settled now. Introductions, which is what we're going to do right now. We're kicking it off. We're going to introduce our panel and tell you a little bit about the Twitter competition that you'll be participating in around these companies that are competing. So let's introduce the panel quickly and give everyone a chance to give their background. So I'd like to introduce to my left here, we have Willem Rensink from the GameChanger program here at Shell International. And go ahead, Willem.
Hi, my name is Willem Rensink. I'm with Shell, based out of Houston, and we're one of the key sponsors of this event. And this is really an opportunity for people with good ideas in future energy space to connect both with investors and also get more general exposure. And by being here, we try to connect to the community in Boston, which is a more and more an important community around clean tech. So we'd love to hear about your ideas and use this event for networking. And I'll be around before and after the event if you have any questions about Shell and Shell GameChanger.
And before I let you escape from the mic, Willem, if you could tell us maybe about your most recent investment and why you're excited about it.
My most recent investment actually has to do with gas conversion, and it's a very, very novel way of gas to liquids. And with the current environment for natural gas prices as they are and the amount of availability in the market, so small-scale gas to liquid conversions are a hot topic for us. And so anytime we see something that has a chance, although it's high risk, we get very excited about that.
Fantastic, thank you. And Michael?
Hi, my name is Mike Bishop. I'm a senior associate at Black Coral Capital. A bit unique in this space. It's not a traditional venture capital firm. We don't call ourselves venture capitalists. We're actually a family office, so backed by a single family that some would say ironically comes out of the traditional energy space, but we focus exclusively on clean tech investments. Anything from venture capital to growth equity and also project finance.
And could you also tell us your most recent investment and why you're excited?
Yeah, so our most recent investment is a clean web company called Noesis Energy, and we're excited because it's a new channel for building energy efficiency.
Fantastic. Daniel.
That test? Okay, that's passed. Good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Hullah. I'm a partner at Rockport Capital Partners here in Boston. We're a venture capital fund, contrast to the family office. Representing to my right, with institutional LPs investing from a $450 million venture fund focused exclusively on energy. And that encompasses clean tech, and we also make limited oil and gas investments as well. A recent investment would be a company called GaN Systems, gallium nitride systems, which is a high-performance power electronics company up in Ottawa.
Thank you. And Faye.
Hi, everyone. Faye Rotenberg here. I work for HPC Ventures. I'm a principal there. HPC is a new US-focused venture group from LS Group, which is based in Seoul, South Korea. and they traditionally have been investing in Asia as a strategic. They now have a separate fund that is not a strategic, but they're the single LP. And I am investing in both startup companies as well as other venture funds. So the most recent investment that we made was actually in the Cleantech space, was in another venture fund focused exclusively on energy and clean technology.
Outstanding. Thank you, Faye. Thank you to the panel for tonight. And so let's move in. Graham, would you like to tell the folks around how the format of the pitch is going to run?
Sure, absolutely. So there's kind of 3 segments to the pitch. The first segment is the presentation from the entrepreneur, the founder of the company, is going to give a 3-minute talk with 2 PowerPoint slides describing the technology and the competitive differentiator about that technology. After those 3 minutes, we'll go into 3 more minutes of Q&A from the panel. So I encourage the panel to jump in immediately when you have questions, anytime. Feel free to also raise your hands from the audience. We'll try and squeeze in questions from the audience if we can during this time, if we are able to. And then the third section is the advice. So this is where the entrepreneur stands there and listens while we are soliciting advice from the panel. Each one will have about 45 seconds to tell the entrepreneur what he or she would do if they were in the entrepreneur's shoes. And then we'd go into Twitter voting. So this is where you, as the audience, decide on your favorite startups and also on your favorite panelists. And you vote on those startups and those panelists over Twitter. So hopefully everybody here has Twitter and has an internet-connected device. And you do that by voting. So you use the hashtag #PoundFutureEnergy and handle, the Twitter handle of the person that you're voting for. And all those are printed in your handouts, and we'll also mention them as the presenters are coming up. So whoever gets the most votes wins some valuable prizes, which we'll talk about as well.
Correct. And there's one other competition that's going on in parallel that's also for the panelists. So the panelists will also be competing tonight somehow. And as they say something smart, as they say something that you like, as they say something cheeky that you like, feel free to vote on that, because they'll also be voting for the Audience Choice Award. And you can vote with the same exact format by including #PoundFutureEnergy and the panelist handle, which is also included in your handout. So what are we competing for? Well, we have some Twitter contest prizes, and the first prize that will be awarded to the first place winner is $1,000 worth of legal services credit from Mintz 11. And I'll connect you with Chris Lulier here. He'll be giving a few words at our sponsor break. The top 3 winners will all be awarded Amazon Web Services credits, $500 each. So that's a great value for a lot of startups who are using hosting services through Amazon. So that's something that can be leveraged. And then a 2-day pass to Work Bar Boston. And I see Bill Jacobson there in the back, and you can connect with Bill. So basically, Work Bar is at capacity, which is fantastic. It's also the birthplace of ultralight startups, and we're happy to see the growth here. But if you'd like to check out the space, they're also expanding down the road. You can get a 2-day pass and a membership discount, and you can follow up with Bill or David Ulrich for details. And then the panelist prize, of course, is the audience choice. And so before we go into the pitches, I would just like to say thank you to a few people that were really instrumental to getting the word out, helping pull the Future Energy program together. And the first person I'd like to thank would be Willem Rensink from Shell, as the driving force and enabler behind this program here tonight, behind the event. The second and third was Chris Lulier and John Rudy from Mintz 11 and the energy sector at Mintz 11 Legal Services, Ali Adler from Cleantech Open, Joan Popolo from Action Incubator, Lorelei Farah and Jeff McCauley from Fraunhofer USA, Sam Frederick and Andrea Golisano from the MIT Energy Club, Jessica Van Sack from the Boston Herald, who launched with the article Coming Out of Their Shells. I don't know if you all saw that, but I recommend you check it out. Microsoft Cambridge, obviously, for co-hosting us in this beautiful space. And then, of course, all of the presenters, all of the panelists, and all of the applicants who applied to pitch here tonight. We received an incredible volume of applicants from all over the world. So what you're really seeing is 8 hand-picked companies that were really at the right stage for what we're trying to accomplish with the the early stage with the right amount of traction and the right amount of technology to be presented. So quite a representation, and hope you enjoy the show tonight. Also, of course, all the media partners, all the channels, all the Twitter, all the tweets, all of the emails, everything that has been going out to bring you all here tonight. Just a quick rundown. Boston Tweet Up has been incredible. Thank you, Sahil Main, for getting the word out and all the tweeting programs that you've had together. Mass Innovation Nights with Bobby Carlton, Work Bar Boston, Amy Goggins from MIT Enterprise Forum, MIT Clean Energy Prize from Sam Shaner, the Babson Energy Club, BU Energy Club, the Harvard Business School, Energy and Environment Club, ePowerhouse, and Mass Challenge. Thank you all very much. Could I have just a round of applause for all the folks that Thank you. Okay, and without further ado, we're going to kick off the pitch.
Do we want to point out the exit doors?
Sure. we are at capacity, I think. So there's, I see one exit door here on the left. It's not, and then there's one.
Another one in the back.
Yeah, one right behind the stairs, all on this level, and then obviously you can always get out the way you came in, which is probably from the stairs.
That sounds great.
Right. So the pitches. The first pitch up tonight.
Yeah. The first pitch is going to be Bill. Actually, I think it's Pat from Resolute Marine Energy. Does that sound right? Okay. So I will give you the mic.
Pat, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, I'm Pat Reza. I'm the CTO of Resolute Marine Energy. Bill Staby is our CEO. He couldn't be here today and told me on Friday evening that I was going to come today and make a pitch. Resolute Marine is about serving millions of people around the world who suffer from devastating effects of water scarcity. Army is developing the first wave-driven desalination system that can operate completely off-grid. Our target customers are coastal communities and resorts around the world that are suffering from critical water shortages, but also have an abundance of wave energy around them. We can displace the sole competitor in this market, which is a diesel-powered system, because our cost structure is between 3 and 6 times less expensive, primarily driven by the energy costs that's required to drive the diesel systems. Our product, called Wave 2.0, is a proprietary wave energy converter. It's comprised of a bottom-mounted hinge device that sits at the seafloor about 100 meters off the coast and rotates or oscillates in reaction to wave energy that's coming to the shore. The surge watt converts the wave energy into pressurized seawater, which is pumped ashore and is used to drive a standard reverse osmosis desalination system. The RO unit does not require the use of any electrical power from the grid. It's a complete standalone system, and it's assembled with readily available off-the-shelf components. The competitive advantages of the system are low capital cost, quick deployment, high scalability, ease of maintenance, minimal environmental impact, and water production at a competitive cost. A typical Wave 2.0 plant contains 25 wave energy converters capable of generating 750 kilowatts of power and producing 2,000 cubic meters of fresh water per day, which is enough to supply 20,000 people. It's delivered to the deployment site in standard maritime shipping containers and can be installed in a matter of weeks and operated and maintained by the local resources. We've chosen our first focus of South Africa because many of the coastal communities suffer from severe water scarcity, and there's an abundant source of nearby wave energy. South Africa has also mobilized a significant capital to solve its water solution problem, and we've conducted a joint study with the Department of Water Affairs in South Africa and estimated that the market alone in South Africa is over $1 billion. Next slide, please. We've secured written agreements and conducted pilot tests in South Africa and be ready to conduct pilot tests in 2014. And during our next visit to October, we'll be working with the Development Bank of South Africa to secure the funding for the local organizations there necessary to do the local marine engineering work. We've progressed steadily through the product development cycle and have done extensive wave testing to verify the paddle designs. We've conducted ocean testing to verify the hydrokinetics design, and we're getting ready to put a 3/4 scale system in the water in Nantucket in November.
10 seconds.
Our goal is to provide outstanding financial results to investors, meeting social objectives, and creating improved job creation, improved health, and responsible environmental stewardship.
And time. Perfect. Thank you. And so questions for the panel, so we can, in any order, if you'd like to ask a question.
So in your system, can you toggle between fresh water and power, or is it always going to fresh water?
No, we'll use the reject brine stream that comes out of the salt water, the desalination plant to create electrical power. So we create our power that we need for the plant, but we can also provide up to, out of the 750 kilowatts, on the order of 600 kilowatts of electrical power as well.
And so how close to shore do we need to be to capture enough energy, or how far out can you go?
Right, so the paddle is about 6 meters tall, and we'd like to be about 80% of the water column, so we're less than 25 feet of water, so about 100 meters from shore.
Okay.
So you're going to be in off-grid developing countries with moving parts. Wouldn't a PV-powered RO system be preferable? You don't have that O&M risk?
The issue with PV and wind are that you don't have power 100% of the time. Waves are there 7 by 24, 365. It's a constant, reliable source of power, and we can meet the energy and electric and water requirements up to 85% of the needs in the local community.
But I guess the ocean being a big variable, what if it breaks?
Which breaks?
The ocean. The ocean being a very, very turbulent environment, I guess, to say the least. And I guess what I'm saying is you're in these very remote regions. What happens when the system
Well,
breaks
our first application is South Africa. So South Africa is maybe considered remote, but it's, we're about 25 miles outside of Durban, which is a major city and a major port in South Africa. There's very little maintenance. The system is very straightforward. Saltwater desalination systems are ubiquitous practically in many parts of the world, so getting spare parts and that sort of thing is pretty reliable. We'll also provide training and service and operation maintenance support locally if the customer wants that.
So one sort of question and observation. It's a wonderfully named company, because I think you have to be very resolute to work with this particular area of technology. It's extremely tough to do this prove out that you have on your chart here, going from the 3/4 scale to the larger systems. And one of the major hurdles is sort of bankability, having the system to be reliable in its performance to the point at which a bank will lend, or some other organization will lend their capital against the output,
Right.
Water or power. So just this is the observation, is that the de-risking strategy that you're going to have going forward will have to take into consideration that bankability may be quite a long way away.
Daniel, do you have a question specifically that you'd like to ask?
No, I just say it's just an observation.
Right. We're targeting small and mid-sized markets where a system for about $8 million can provide 2,000 cubic meters of fresh water a day. So we're trying to stay on the low end of the market where it's not capitally intensive. It's not a 100 million gallon a day plant. It's costs $100 million. So that's how we're trying to address that particular issue. But I agree that it's a challenge.
So a quick question is, if you are targeting right offshore by resort community, will you interfere with the resort activities in the water? And similarly, will you interfere with the marine ecosystems?
No, we've done marine ecosystem studies, and we have senior advisors on our team that are looking at that. Because the paddle is moving very slowly, a wave will progress between 6 and 11 seconds. Marine life will just move around it and not see it. As far as resort areas, we're about 100 to 200 meters depending on the depth offshore. So most recreational activity is closer to inshore. The paddle is below the surface of the water so that it's not seen. And we actually bring an additional benefit, which many of the resorts find attractive, and that is that we're not producing noise from a diesel plant. We're not spending diesel fuel making exhaust fumes. And in a typical plant that we're talking about with the 25 wave energy converters, it saves the equivalent of about 13,000 automobiles worth of CO2 emissions. So that's how we're trying to address those questions.
So we're going to move right into the feedback form. Willem, what kind of advice would you like to give? Takeaway information. What do you have for?
Yeah, so I think the focusing on developing countries is sort of a noble cause, but it might be difficult for first deployment. So I'd look at more like island economies, like in the Caribbean. There's a lot of wealthy areas that are looking at these types of systems. I think the combination of fresh water and power is good, but it might complicate things as well and say, well, can't you focus on power first and then make that step and see whether you can find any complementary technology that can actually integrate it and make it firm. Because I'd still be worried, with storm growth, with storm surge or a lack of waves, that you need some sort of backup and integration. So I'd look at that overall system integration.
Just to follow up on that as well, I think focusing on the customer economics, as bad as it sounds, there obviously is a great need for the service and the product that you're providing, but from a customer perspective, it's a very difficult sell. So I think that you need to focus on the aspect that you have government financing, but think perhaps about next steps, what ultimate customer may be beyond just having that financing from South Africa.
Daniel?
Yeah, just echo the points about the financing, your staging of financing and what type of capital you're going to need. I don't think it'll be necessarily private capital for a while.
Yeah, following up on that point, I would say that a classic failure is engaging the project finance community too late, and backing up what Daniel said about bankability, working on that as soon as possible. So all the data that you have, whether it's from labs, whether it's your current projects, demonstration projects, and comparing that to current generation technologies that banks are familiar with. Approaching banks such as Standard Chartered that have a very large presence in South Africa, and working on that as soon as possible, I think would be your best interest.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Faye, and thanks, Pat. To vote for Pat and Resolute Marine Energy as your favorite startup tonight, you'll send a tweet with #Future Energy and @Resolute Marine. And that's a vote for Pat and Resolute Marine Energy. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists the same way, #Future Energy, and then their Twitter handle for whoever you thought gave the most insightful and helpful feedback to Pat. So next up we have Matthew Rosenfeld of Triple Point Energy. And on deck, so hang out somewhere over there, if you are Gabriel Martinez of CleanCrowd. Is Gabriel here? All right. So go ahead, Matt, whenever you're ready.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Matt Rosenfeld. I'm CEO and co-founder of Triple Point Energy. We're an energy storage technology and development company. We were founded a little over a year ago. And just after our company's launch, we filed a process patent on our energy storage technology. Our technology takes advantage of well-established phenomena that allow steam cycle power plants to generate more energy with colder ambient conditions. Our technology takes advantage of these phenomena by using ice stored and located at power plants to effectively lower these ambient conditions by emulating these lower ambient conditions and boosting the power output of that power plant. Our own research, along with academic literature, suggests that this boost in output can be upwards of 16%, and our most current designs are slated to allow this boost of output for 3 to 6 hours at a time for a full charge. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we look at the energy market today, we see a tremendous need for energy storage, and we see a huge need for energy storage that can provide load shifting capabilities, summer peaking capacity, and spinning reserve. And there's a lack of technology out there that can do this. If you look at sort of the major incumbent systems like pumped hydro and compressed air, they're really too large to be deployable easily. You can only justify really large projects that take multiple years to deploy. And they also suffer from siting issues because of their geological constraints. Our system, on the other hand, can be deployed to any of tens of thousands of existing or planned steam cycle generation units across the globe. We also have a construction design life cycle that's under 12 months. And we can scale the system really to any size power plant. So we can build multi-megawatt systems all the way up to 100+ megawatt systems. We see some emerging technologies such as batteries out there that are frankly just too expensive for the grid right now. At $350 a kW for an installed cost, we really reach grid parity with our competing technologies. Our low idling losses make us an ideal solution to provide spinning reserve. And when you combine all of these sources together, all these sources of revenue together, we have a market-ready solution. Particularly the fact that our solutions uses all existing components also makes us market-ready. I'd like to talk to you briefly about what we've done to date and how we're going to market. Right now, we're talking with over a dozen power generation owners, operators, and developers. We're talking with 5 generation owners right now where we're conducting feasibility studies at their power plants. One of those feasibility studies is now co-funded by NYSERDA in New York at a 60 megawatt site there. And ultimately what we want to do is package together our intellectual property along with all of these services into a turnkey solution that we could offer either to sell and walk away for a power plant owner, or enter into a joint venture agreement with these generation owners and get project equity in the solutions. Thank you.
Okay, so now. Great job, Matt. So let's move into the question and answer form. In any order, what questions from the panel would we like to ask Matt of Triple Point Energy?
So you use thermal storage for the energy storage, is that correct?
That's correct.
So can you then explain how you compete with sort of battery storage technologies in that space?
Yeah, sure. So batteries, we're comparable on energy density. Our cost is tenfold less than batteries, and then our system life cycle is one of the other sort of major advantages that we have.
What type of great heat can you accept into the system? Is that generated by the power plant you piggyback on, or can you take all the sources of energy?
So we could use steam, mid to low grade steam, but we typically design our system to use electricity to charge the system. So electric motor driven chillers to make ice.
And so what's your energy dissipation over time in the unit?
So it depends on sort of the size of the system, because ice is self-insulating. So if you ever sort of built a snowman and let it sit in the spring, and it sticks around for a while, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But so the bigger the plant, the lower the dissipation rate, because that self-insulation factor.
How difficult, I guess, what has to be modified at the host site in order to implement this solution?
Once again, it depends on the type of cooling system, but typically it's a very simple 2-valve approach. Basically, it's 2 bypass valves on the cooling water system, so there's almost no disruption in plant operations.
So it's a question about the performance. Have you modeled the round trip efficiency of the storage?
Yeah, and this is probably our weakest point. We're in the mid-40s in terms of round trip efficiency. That being said, in the markets that we're modeling right now, we've shown that round trip efficiencies as low as 10% can still be economical as long as the capital cost is low enough.
Against natural gas, at what price?
We're modeling it at $2-3 natural gas right now.
So the range of the output and efficiency that you boost, you say it's 1 to 10%? Yeah, 1 to 10%?
Yeah.
That's a really large range. At 1%, I can see it not being worth it at all, but 10% absolutely. What accounts for that, and how are you figuring out where it makes sense for?
So that's actually an operational range. So basically, for the same system, we can have 1 or a 10% boost depending on how we adjust flow rates through our system. And that basically affects your burn rate or the amount of time that you can discharge for. So the same system can actually charge 10 or even more than 10%. And we typically design our system to discharge at that maximum level for a 4-hour discharge cycle.
And how are you measuring that on an ongoing basis?
How are we measuring, sorry, what?
The output. So are you coming back continuously, or are you partnering with another O&M or a service provider?
So we'd either partner with the plant itself, or we would provide, ultimately we'd like to be able to provide some of those services in-house.
Okay, great. So let's move into the feedback form. Takeaway advice, recommendation, what should go home and do tonight to improve his company? Mike?
Sure. So I guess this is specific to what you just mentioned, but probably applies to all different teams tonight, and even pitching in general. But assume that perhaps the process patent that you mentioned is not defensible at all whatsoever. Just talk about why you as a management team are well positioned to out execute any other competitors, be it technology or similar processes such as yourself.
I would say consider very strongly the rest of the world. in India in particular, in terms of where storage technologies are going to be introduced. It's not obvious with low natural gas and pretty weak low growth here in the States that this is the place.
And I would say in terms of your outreach strategy, I would look at the other firms that are already servicing these power providers, so whether it's a Black & Veatch or a GE, so product providers, service providers, and seeing if you can partner with them and piggyback on the existing products that they're already providing them.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing and a bad thing to be integrated with existing power plants, because I think you really have to watch that capital intensity of the retrofit. What you might call 2 pipes might be very different at every plant. So getting a base load system and a basic understanding of the capital and which system will work and what won't work. And you might also look at your numbers and see how good do I need to be to really be performing. And typically when you look at the storage market, so one, at least in North America, I think you have to link yourself to renewable integration, because that's where people are willing to pay for that balancing load rather than energy storage or cheap energy storage that you can use later. And there I think the quick response time or the length of storage will be fine, but you have to link into that renewable. So look at places that have a lot of excess renewable, and then look at the power plants and the options they have for buffering and see whether you can create that additional loads at a very low cost for them. Because the battery technology is always going to be inherently expensive. And so if you can piggyback on that with a standard design, I think that should be a focus.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Round of applause for Matt. So if you would like to vote for Matt Rosenfeld at Triple Point Energy is your favorite startup tonight, you will send a tweet with # Future and at Third Power 3, that's THIRD POWER numeral 3. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists for all of their insightful advice and feedback. And next up, we have Gabriel Martinez of CleanCrowd.
Yes.
And on deck, we have Manuel Rivera. Is Manuel here? Okay. So go ahead, Gabriel, when you're ready.
All right, thank you. My name is Gabriel Martinez, founder at CleanCrowd. What CleanCrowd does is crowdfunding using a royalty-based lending platform for clean energy companies. So if you don't know what crowdfunding is, it's essentially the idea of, instead of going to 1 or 2 institutional investors, you end up going to thousands of different private individuals for small amounts of money. If you haven't heard of Kickstarter, I suggest you check them out. Kickstarter uses the predominant model in this market, which is essentially donation or reward based. People come into their site, they find something that they like, they either make a donation to that company or to that individual, or they're looking to get some product back in a couple of years, something like that. And of the $300 million or so that has been raised through Kickstarter, and the $1.5 billion that is expected to be raised through this model by the end of this year, absolutely $0 end up going back to the crowd. Just nothing. So what this says essentially is that the crowd is a mission-driven source of capital. These are people that really care about what their money is doing, where it's going. They don't necessarily care entirely about its return. So what CleanCrowd does is take that idea, that notion of wanting to do something good with your money, doubles it, and then returns the money back to the crowd. So what we use is a royalty-based lending model where people come in to our site and they find companies that they're interested in. They pledge their money to them. We collect the money. We dole that out to the company that is working in the clean energy space. They take that money after a few servicing fees are reduced because we need to actually operate. We also take a small warrant on the company. And then that company goes off and they do whatever it is that they do in the clean energy space. They try to have some positive environmental impact. That's the first good that is done with the money from the crowd. As they generate revenue, and this is an important point because in the royalty-based model, you only make payments on the loan as you generate revenue. It's a flexible repayment model, and there's no equity dilution for the company through the loan. So as they generate that money, CleanCrowd collects it and then doles it out to specified charities that were picked out by the crowd. That's the second good that's done. And then money is returned back to the crowd itself. So that ends up in this pay-it-around model that we've developed. So right now, we have about 1,000 different people that have expressed interest in being investors in testing the site. We have about 20 different companies that we've done due diligence on that are interested in using the service. We have built our website. We partnered with one of the original Kickstarter guys to actually build the website. And we have the thumbs up from our legal counsel. And we're just trying to raise money right now to actually build that legal infrastructure so that we can launch by the end of this year and hopefully do as much good as we possibly can.
10 seconds. Or is that time?
All right, nice job.
Well done. So question answers from the panel. We can start with Faye, or I saw Daniel reach for the
So right now, crowdfunding marketplace, you have source of liquidity, and then you have the instrument security, which is any of these companies. My question is, what is the source of liquidity? Are these all individuals? Are they companies? Are they existing funds that aren't investing in these?
You mean who is in the crowd? Is that your question?
Who is the crowd?
The crowd is everybody here, anybody and anybody who wants to put in $20 or more towards something that they like.
And then what are they investing in?
They're investing in a company, so they're making a loan to the company, and we facilitate that loan. We facilitate and service that relationship between the crowd investor and the company.
And how are you creating standard terms for very different companies with different structures?
Yeah, that becomes complicated. So what we're doing right now in the infancy of our company is looking for companies that fit a certain profile so that we can have things very standard. And then as we move forward, we'll build parameters that we can change the relationship. So for example, changing the interest rate or changing the repayment time, those types of things.
So the question I was going to ask is, you sort of preempted it in your last comment, what does the IRS think of this? And what implications are there for people who are no longer donating but making a loan and having cash actually come back to them? Is that income? What is that?
You're right. So the first part of that question, you asked what the IRR is?
No, the IRS.
Oh, you mean the Internal Revenue
The
Service?
Internal Revenue Service.
Right. Well, for the company, this the money that they're paying back on the loan on the interest side ends up being tax deductible. It's either a direct donation to charity or it's just tax deductible interest. For the people who are getting money back, as we're starting, it's actually a no interest loan. So the people in the crowd right at the beginning can't get any more money back than they put in. And we have to do that for a number of regulatory requirements so that this is not a security right now. As we grow, we'll be able to actually dial down this money that ends up going to nonprofits, and the crowd can choose how much they want to go to them, how much they want to go to the nonprofit, and they can make money. The problem that we can't do right now is that it's very expensive to build that legal infrastructure. If you look at Prosper.com or LendingClub.com, they have something very similar.
So what's your target amount of for a loan for a startup company?
So our target average is $500,000.
And then you expect how many people to contribute to that?
The goal is to get about 1,200 people investing in that, so average of about $440 per person.
And how much time do you think you can give sort of the people to raise that, say, $500,000?
Right, so if you look at the overall industry as a whole, it takes about 10 weeks for any campaign of size for a donation or reward basis to get completed. On the lending side, because people are actually going to be getting the money back, it's between 4 and 5 weeks. So that would be our goal, around that 4 to 5 weeks.
And so that's what you expect a company to sort of wait, or are you expecting any competition for like a real good idea that, you know, an angel investor or a venture investment? So how do you vet the type of technologies that are amenable to your, you know, funding mechanism versus people that can raise their capital in traditional ways?
Right, so there's two ways to answer that. The first is if you can go out and get angel and VC money, go do it. If you can't, or you're too early, if you can't go to a bank because you don't have collateral, come to us. And the idea is to use the money from the crowd to incubate companies to the point where they will be able to go to a VC and get a second round of financing. So our instruments are set up specifically to allow for that second round so that there's no prohibition, basically. You don't have 1,200 investors that you have to deal with on an individual basis to try to buy them out.
Isn't there a negative selection bias that exists then, if you as an investor know that the companies that are on the site are ones that couldn't get funding elsewhere?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think if you look at the profile of companies that VCs are looking at, the average seed investment is between 4 to 6 million. And if you're looking at a company that only needs $500,000, you're most likely going to be offsetting an angel. But if you don't have the network to get in touch with an angel who can give you $500,000, then you're sort of out of luck.
I guess this is maybe following on into the feedback session, because I know we've gone over, but
Mike, if you want, jump right into the feedback.
yeah, something to say on on that in terms of, you mentioned follow-on rounds or VCs coming in. Something to consider is, I wouldn't be too happy looking at a company, say I'm comparing two similar ones. One has X percentage of revenue already allocated for something else, whereas a different company, they got a grant, sort of a free money essentially, that doesn't have those limitations.
Yeah, so I think the idea itself is good to provide an additional funding mechanism. I think you have to be careful not to attract too many wild technology ideas that have been shopped around forever. And so I think for your company to be successful, you really need some early success stories where people really feel this money enabled something. So you may want to sort of limit the type of technology space that you're targeting, or maybe focus on some social investment, or go towards projects rather than take a lot of technology risk in the first ones. I think later you can do it, but you sort of have to earn your bread and butter in something that works, have a good success story, because you only become an attractive vehicle if you get enough people donating and then seeing the impact of projects that are otherwise difficult to finance.
Feedback, Daniel?
Yeah, echoing a little bit of that feedback, but differentiating yourself from Kickstarter, number one. Number two, this is a very complicated wheel you have up on here, so you're going to have to find you did a nice job in the presentation, but it's complicated, right? What happens is complicated. Kickstarter is simple, at least from the outside, so that's one of the compelling things it has, so make it simple would be one piece of advice. And the second thing is that it seems that you've turned the tables from a donation to an investment, which is what was being discussed earlier, and that people have slightly different sort of criteria for evaluation. Something's cool, I'll donate money to it. I'm investing in it. I really need to know that it's not crazy. It sort of changes the tables a little bit. Think about that.
So, echoing part of what Daniel said about Kickstarter simplicity, I think that part of that is because people are giving without the expectation of returns, whether it's loan repayment or equity in the company. They're giving it expecting a certain product, but they aren't expecting the loans, and as a result, it's a lot simpler. And Kickstarter also doesn't have any liability. They aren't held accountable for any projects or any fraud. And some of the other platforms that you mentioned, Lending Club, Prosper, that was a huge problem for them the first 3, 4, 5 years. And it took a lot of work around the risk assessment methodologies and figuring that out. So I think that it gets very complicated when you go beyond just giving as a grant or a nonprofit. And I also think that it complicates your messaging, because I'm left wondering what it is that I'm investing in. Am I investing in something that I believe in, which is great, and I think I would, but I might be more hesitant to do so if I'm doing it because I want a return as an investor.
Thanks, Faye. So everyone is giving their feedback? All right, so to vote for CleanCrowd, Gabriel and CleanCrowd, send a tweet with #FutureEnergy and @CleanCrowd. And don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists for their insightful advice. So thanks very much, Gabriel. Next up is Manuel Rivera of Hybrid Recovery. That'll be the last before the break. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hello, and thank you all for being here. My name is Manuel Rivera. I'm the founder of Hydro Recovery. Our company has developed a very nice way to produce electricity and save water. Today we'd like to talk to you about pressure-reducing valves. Pressure-reducing valves are wasting energy all over not only the United States, but all over the world. And this has been happening for over 100 years. We have the solution for this problem, which is our hydro recovery system that transfers the water into electricity and then reintroduces the water back into the building. There is two things that we can do with the energy that is generated by our system. One thing is that we can send electricity back to the grid. The second thing is that we can use the electricity inside the buildings. So our technology performs the work of the pressure reducing valves and at the same time produces electricity. So it's a win-win situation. Also, a beautiful thing about our technology is it is scalable to all the way from small buildings to water distribution systems in any part of the planet. At this moment, we are looking to partner actually with pressure reducing valve companies to do distribution and also with electrical companies. The system can be also portable for the army applications, and we are also looking to get hooked up with the government because we know that they would be really happy about this new technology. We also plan to manufacture this technology in Massachusetts because we do believe that it's going to generate not only electricity, save water, but it's also going to generate a lot of jobs, clean jobs. Also, by adopting this hydro technology in the buildings are going to be much more efficient. The payback time is somewhere between 3 and 4 years. After that period of time, the hydro system is going to start producing electricity for free. We are here today looking for partners, maybe angel investors, to go with to the next stage, which is going to be to run pilot programs around Massachusetts, and also to build some devices to do testing and keep going with the process. So this technology is it is really easy to install. The system is compact, and it is very efficient. 10 seconds. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Next job.
Questions from the panel? Maybe Faye, if you want to start.
Just quickly, can you walk us through the installation process?
Yes, the installation is extremely simple. It's a quick installation, so it works in the same manner that you install a pressure reducing valve. So you take the pressure reducing valve out and you put our hydro system. It's very simple. The installation can be done in 1 day for 2 people.
Maybe I'm missing something on the technical side, but are you not simply borrowing energy from the public, from the pumps that pressurize the water in the upstream?
No, that's a good question. No, because the hydro system it has not any connection with the pumps that pump the water into the reservoir. It's the electricity that generated for a hydro system is 100% due to gravity field.
You mentioned it's a very scalable
Yes.
product, but I'm wondering how much customization is needed. I mean, obviously different sized pipes, how many different sized products would you actually have to have?
Well, we are thinking about 3 different sizes, which is buildings that use somewhere between 20,000 gallons a day all the way to 50,000. That's one size. And then from 100,000 to 500,000 gallons of water a day, that's a different size. And from there is going to be water distribution systems.
So on this slide, you note that you need about 100 psi pressure going in. Where's that number come from? Is that typical? That's the pressure the water arrives at the building?
Well, actually, the pressure is bigger than that. Like for example, in Massachusetts, the pressure on the ground pipes runs over 250 psi because that's how much pressure the fire hydrants need. So most of the buildings around Boston have only about 80 to 90 because they already have pressure reducing valves.
And so how sensitive is obviously it's sensitive to that delta pressure that you can, accomplish in your box. And so if that pressure on the front end is too low, what does that do to your payback time?
I don't understand the question.
So if you get less pressure going in, then obviously you produce less electricity. So how sensitive are you to those pressure fluctuations or pressure differences to make pay for itself?
Well, a perfect example for answer that question is the JFK building in Boston, that they do not use water pressure reducing valves. So, but they use a lot of flow of water, about 100,000 gallons. So our hydro system also works in the environment where there is no pressure reducing valve, but only the flow of water.
And can you elaborate what the Army application is that you'll be looking at?
Portable devices, because so they don't have to carry so much batteries. They can use one small portable devices and hook it up to any water main, and they produce electricity.
So it becomes sort of a water generator.
Yes, as a bypass. It is extremely simple to install and it's very, very effective.
But can you use it then for outside? Like if you have a true field application, go sit in a waterfall, or you just don't capture that enough?
No, it will not work like that.
Okay.
Not enough.
Willem, would you like to start with the feedback?
I think not knowing too much about the box, I think it's every time I think you have to deal with the utilities on the back end. I think the regulatory environment that you're operating in, you have to be very careful and not, you're not building up too much pressure and you're really producing something. And then, what you're going to do with electricity. And I think you don't mention cost, what really your cost is per sort of kilowatt or watts produced, and see, is that truly worth going through the effort of getting that electricity out for what you got in? Because, it's difficult for me to see whether or not you're generating enough electricity for the effort you're putting in, and if that's worth sort of going through this regulatory environment. But overall, if you have a low energy capturing device of flowing water, I think it might be interesting. But then seeing whether or not you're stealing somebody else's energy, like there's no free energy. I mean, that would be my biggest worry, and to make sure you communicate that clearly.
Sorry, some feedback from, carrying off of that, feedback for Resolute as well. I think on your slide you said free energy. Just be very, very careful doing that because it doesn't exist. On this, I think it was definitely a very good presentation, I guess, walking through some of it. I would say it would really be helpful, and this is more just a presentation from this slide. I was reading a lot when I should have been listening to you, and I think what would really be helpful is a picture in and of itself. I think you could see there was some, not to say confusion, but to help with what the technology actually is, what it would look like, I think would be very, very helpful in this context.
A little bit along the same lines, not many people know what a pressure reducing valve is. I'm guessing so you can educate us very quickly on what that is. The other thing is that I'm still a little bit stuck with 100 going to 35, 100 going to 40, and we're pulling energy out. So energy went somewhere in the pressure reducing valve, so just sort of show us where it went and show where it goes in your one. But, interesting little project for that.
So following up on what they're saying, I think the slide, it could be more clear what exactly it is that you're doing, and then how it slots into existing systems, whether it's the building systems or whether it's the maintenance and operations people and companies that are already servicing these buildings. Do you have to train them in order to install your system, or is it that self-explanatory that they can do it on their own? And also the financing. So you say 3 to 4 years payback. How are you going to verify that? And are they going to the banks? Is it going to be on balance sheet? So some more information about the financing of it would be helpful as well.
Okay, thanks Faye, thanks Manuel.
Thank you very much.
So to go for hydro recovery is your favorite startup pitch tonight. You will send a tweet with #Future Energy and @Manuelito Salsa. That's MANUELITOSALSA. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists for their insightful advice. We're going to take a brief break in a minute, but before we do, we're going to hear from our sponsors. So, Willem, do you want to talk about Shell and GameChanger?
Yeah, so the Shell GameChanger program is really the entry to Shell with a good idea that's related to energy. So we look at anything that has anything to do with any relevance for Shell. So we have a basic screening process where we look at novelty, value, why Shell should be interested, and whether you have a doable plan or not. So we look at early stage ideas that we can incubate and then help develop and either create some value for Shell and create value for the person with the idea, and eventually lead to a collaboration with Shell. So we run a website, it's shell.com/GameChanger. You can submit your idea and we'll take a look at it and see whether we can find a way to collaborate based on that.
Thank you very much, Willem. All right, so we're going to hear just from two other sponsors here tonight. Mintz Levin, our preferred legal service provider. So here's Chris Lulia. Chris, if you'd like to say a few words about.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Lulier. I'm from Mintz Levin. Mintz is a sponsor of Ultralight. We've been involved for about a year and a half, and we're just really pleased to be a sponsor. It's a great organization. I've seen this grow from 25 people in the bottom of Work Bar, and here tonight, this is the biggest turnout so far. So we're really pleased to be a part of this community, and just pleased to be involved. Tonight, I have brought with me a colleague of mine from Mintz Levin's Cleantech practice. His name is Jeff McCourt, and he just wants to talk for a minute or two about what Mintz Levin is doing in the Cleantech area.
Hi everybody, Chris here to talk for a minute or two, so I'll just give you 5 seconds or so. Great crowd tonight. I've heard this is going to be a clean tech focused event in addition to the ultralight startups. This is just awesome to see this turnout. So specifically, I just want to let you know about Mintz Levin's clean tech practice. And you may have heard before from Chris about kind of our focus on startup companies, but the depth that we have in the clean tech space in particular is really one of the things that we're most proud about in our involvement in startups. We have over 300 clients in the space, over $4 billion in transactions in the last 5 or 6 years. And it really runs the gamut from startup companies working with people such as yourself that have great ideas, looking for initial financing, looking to get their companies incorporated, initial documents, get the IP protected, all the way up through IPOs, through exits, mergers, stuff like that. So we're happy to see such great participation in this event and such a great turnout. Look forward to interacting with you. Chris is going to be here, myself, and I think John Rudy's probably back in the cookie tray somewhere, all from the corporate practice.
Awesome, thanks Chris.
You guys, the other word we'd like to hear from is Bill Jacobson, and it's from Work Bar. So, Bill?
Hi everybody, very glad to be here. Always love coming out for these. I've been watching a lot of political speeches lately, so I thought I'd tell you a little story. I'll keep it real short. Work Bar got started about 3 years ago, and myself personally, I've been involved in startups and big companies and all along the gamut. And about 3 years ago, there were 4 of us in a group, and we said, hey, we want the benefits of a big company workspace, an awesome workspace, and we want cool people to be around, and we want all the good things, but we want to be able to have a collaborative environment with lots of different companies around. And we set out to do that, and we've been honing it. We've expanded it twice. We're about to go through another fairly large expansion, opening up a location in Central Square by the end of the year, further expanding our Boston location by the end of the year, and keep on doing more. We're also rolled out a program called Outer Spaces. It's a different type of Work Bar membership where there's companies that have come through Work Bar and now have their own spaces and things, and they're licensing back desks at their spaces to other people in the Work Bar community that want to take part in this co-working. And it comes with a part-time membership, so you can still get all the community aspects of Work Bar, but get to know a company real well. So come see me if you work for a company that maybe has some extra space for the Outer Spaces program, or if you just want to know what we're about, or our Central Square location, or Boston. I'd be happy to talk to you about what we're doing. Thanks a lot, guys.
And of course, thank you to Amazon Web Services and Microsoft again. And just wanted to mention about our service providers. When you registered for tonight, you basically either check some boxes off and said, I'd like to meet Ultralight Startups preferred service providers. If you checked something, you would have received an email to connect with one of the service providers here. So just a quick mention to, obviously, Mints if you are interested in legal services, Joe Chin with SourcePad if you are interested in web or web UI and design and development, WorkBar, of course, for startup office space, and with Nathan, who I think I saw earlier, with the commercial business insurance. Thank you to our service providers for those connections. All right, so just a few announcements. We're going to have another Ultralight Startups regular event here on October 29th, so if you'd like to come back for the normal Internet Startup event, come check us out then. Future Energy is in New York on November 14th, so if you traveled from New York, you can stay local and check out the energy event down there. And there's a Cleantech Open Gala Award, so connect with Ali Adler if you see her around about that. So now you can stretch your legs, take a break, 5 minutes, and then we'll be here for the second half of the pitch forum. Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name is Scott Friedman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Greenavise.
Into the mic. Let's go.
Hold the mic.
Hold the mic.
Okay. I'm Scott Friedman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Greenavise. Greenavise has developed GeoAccess, a unique financing solution for eliminating the upfront additional cost of geothermal heating and cooling systems. America spends over $350 billion each year on energy consumed in buildings and homes. Heating, cooling, and hot water accounts for over 50% of that demand, and most of the energy comes from burning fossil fuels. I see a tremendous opportunity with geothermal heating and cooling. It's the most efficient, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly way of heating and cooling space. However, it only accounts for about 1% of the marketplace. Why is that? According to the U.S. Department of Energy, it's because of the high upfront cost, lack of consumer knowledge, and lack of confidence in system benefits. That's why I created GeoAccess. So how does GeoAccess work? First, you have to understand that geothermal is made up of primarily two parts. An inside part, which is the equipment that's similar to a conventional system, and the outside part, which is a loop field, a series of pipes and wells in the ground outside. Greenavise buys, owns, and maintains the outside loop field, eliminating that cost to the property owner. The property owner purchases the inside equipment and enters into a 10-year GeoAccess agreement with us to pay a monthly fee to access the loop field. GeoAccess insulates its customers against rising utility expenses because it's a fixed fee for the full term. At the end of the 10-year term, they will have paid far less than if they had bought the conventional system. The solar industry has been using similar strategies for years, and it's led to explosive growth, and it was a fantastic way to eliminate the high upfront cost of putting panels on roofs. Think about Solar City and Sunrun for geothermal. So let's talk about the numbers. Using conservative projections, our revenue model, which provides for a levered IRR of over 20% per project, we anticipate in the next 3 years, we'll have over 1,050 systems installed, generating $3.5 million in annual recurring revenue. Within 5 years, we'll have 2,800 systems in the ground, generating over $9 million in annual recurring revenue. That's a tiny fraction of the potential market. Geothermal is where solar was 8 to 10 years ago. GeoAccess is a much-needed solution to move this industry along. It's a win-win-win for our consumers, the planet, and our investors.
Good timing. Nice job. Willem, question?
So from a capital expenditure perspective, what's the balance between the cost of the inside system and the cost of the piping system that you're going to own and operate?
Yeah, it's close to 50-50.
And so overall, if you compare it to solar, for example, for the capital intensity, are you talking about similar amounts, or what's your estimate per household?
It is similar amounts, and we've done our numbers based on $15,000 per loop field for a residential job and $150,000 for a commercial job.
And so what's your competitive advantage over the people that obviously sort of are the installers or the developers of the equipment? So if they see what you're doing, how do you sort of, why are they not going to take your business model?
Well, that's a very good question, and I mentioned Sunrun for that reason. Solar City and Sunrun are very different models. Solar City is a soups and nuts. Sorry, not used to a microphone. Solar City does.
Right in.
Okay, good.
That's it.
Solar City does everything from sales and marketing to the installs, and they put up the money to finance the systems. Sunrun does the marketing, works with installation partners, and they brand it. We're more like Sunrun. We're working with installers that are already in the marketplace, working with drillers and manufacturers as a financing option.
And so can you apply it in most areas of the US?
You can do geothermal heating and cooling pretty much anywhere in the United States. Our primary focus is the Northeast because we're located out of the DC area and because it's most economic against non-natural gas resources, and there's a high level of oil and propane in the Northeast.
Question, Mike?
So you mentioned Sunrun and Solar City multiple times, and obviously it was, I'd say, part of the sort of real growth there has been the financing solution, but part of it from the customer side of things, there's just something sexy about solar panels on your roof, and customers get that. They understand what it does. You mentioned that there's a lack of consumer knowledge, and I would even perhaps say interest to geothermal. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, I think marketing and advertising is the key. I don't think that people, I mean, solar is sexy, you can say that, but I think that people are interested in doing this and interested in saving money. And most people who learn about geothermal are interested in doing it. But 9 out of 10 still think it's deep well drilling, creating electricity out of the earth.
I would only say that, again, so people like solar because they can point to it. It's hard to point to things in the basement or on the ground. One question about, you're going to charge me a monthly fee, a flat monthly fee?
Correct.
Even if I don't use the system? How do I know it's working?
Well, we are going to monitor and meter the systems. We're not charging on a per therm basis, but we're going to provide a dashboard that does give you the therms in and out of the ground. It is your primary source of heating and cooling, so you know it immediately if you're not getting heating and cooling.
And are you providing operations and maintenance? Are you going to maintain my system for 20 years or some period of time?
Absolutely. We're fully responsible for the outside loop field, and we provide a service contract for the install.
So if you're fully responsible for the maintenance, are you doing that in-house or are you partnering with others? Are you partnering with people, and this is doing HVAC, so Carrier or Train or any of the larger systems?
Yeah, we're partnered with local providers. Generally, our partnerships have been forming through the relationships with manufacturers, working with their largest dealers.
Okay, let's move into the feedback session. Daniel, you grabbed the mic, so why don't you go first?
How's this grabbing the mic? Yeah, I think just echo the point about interest from the consumers. This isn't necessarily something that is front of mind from too many people. I think those who know about it are committed probably will explore options, but I like the idea. Your sustainable competitive advantage is probably that you exist right now. If things are successful, that will go away, so think about that.
I would just say one of the big things facing a lot of the solar PV finance providers is how to bring down that cost of customer acquisition. So beyond just marketing, think about perhaps some interesting channel partnerships or things of that nature where you could really access customers.
Just one more question that I had in my head and then it left, but what happens if someone moves?
Sure.
It follows a similar model to PV. It can either be assigned or bought out.
Okay. And then just moving on to feedback, one thing is following a similar model as solar, looking at a company such as One Roof and how they partner with the roofers. So partnering maybe with the home construction companies, or find out where the new builds are and going in there. Also looking potentially at new green communities. So is there potential to do one larger geothermal and then have have all of the various houses within this community have access to it. So I guess you could compare it to a solar farm.
Feedback, Will?
Yeah, so I think you have to be really clear where you want to play in the value chain to sort of maintain a competitive advantage. And I was looking at it with 1,050 installments in 3 years. That's about almost one a day. So I think that's quite aggressive to take on for maintenance, warranty, and all those types of things. So you might run out of capital if the only thing you have is that leasing or owning that infrastructure, and still relying on the homeowner to put in a lot as well. So how are you going to position yourself with the equipment, the homeowner, and then all the liability pretty much you're taking on for the system, and then being able to scale that rapidly. I think you have to really think, where can I add value and stay ahead of the competition as people learn more about it and sort of benefit more from your work than you yourself might do.
Okay, thanks for the feedback. Excellent feedback, Willem. So if you would like to vote for Greenavise as your favorite startup tonight, you'll send a tweet with #Future Energy and @Greenavise, GREENAVISE. And don't forget to vote for your favorite panels. I know they are very anxiously looking forward to the winner of tonight's contest, more so than any of the startups, I'm sure. So next we have Sahil Sahni of LinkCycle, and on deck we have Jim Nole of TelAztec. So go ahead, Sahil, whenever you're ready.
Can everybody hear me? Well, good evening. I'm Sahil Sahni, and I'm representing my company LinkCycle, born out of MIT. That sounds awesome. The company is born out of MIT, not me. We replace meters used in production facilities for measuring energy, electricity, emissions, water with our patent-pending software. Let's take the example of Samsung Electronics that only knows the total energy used at every facility because there's always a total electricity meter at every building. LinkCycle takes that data, so that's like the total electricity. It takes that data and without any extra data collection, breaks it down into each production line within each facility, thereby telling Samsung what's the energy used or how much energy goes into making the cameras, the speakers, the laptops, the mobile phones. Next slide. So this kind of meter that you see on the left is present in nearly every manufacturing facility in the world. But now, they don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these meters, but can use our software for 10% the price. Thus, through a cheaper investment and faster measurement, Samsung can both reduce cost by identifying energy hotspots and increase revenue by communicating their product sustainability to customers like Best Buy that are extremely finicky about the sustainability attributes of the products that they carry. Our algorithms are ready. 18 beta customers are testing it, including Saint-Gobain, Nole, Rubbermaid, HP, others. We will sell to these businesses directly and also to others as a plugin in the conventional energy management software. We are negotiating a partnership with all 23 energy management software vendors in the US, including IBM, Cisco, SAP, CA Technologies. Our team includes my partner and myself, who are graduates or who have graduate degrees from MIT in sustainability analytics with prior experience in the same space. A graduating MIT PhD candidate developing our software and algorithms, and an advisory board composed of serial entrepreneurs and MIT professors. For 1 year, we have sold this technology as a consulting service, and now need $2 million to convert it into a scalable software. Thank you.
Nice job.
Can I ask if this is being recorded or should I take notes? Or?
This is being recorded.
Okay, great. Makes it easy.
So, Faye, would you like to ask a question?
Sure. So right now, is your software being integrated into all of those other energy management softwares, or are you pulling it in? So are you a plugin for them, or are you providing your own solution and then it integrates with them?
Could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, stay on this slide. Right now we have the algorithms, so these are codes at the back. and we've been improving them for the past 1 year and doing a lot of market research and validating. So the way we've been servicing right now is through a consulting model. So I go to Samsung, for example, and I tell them, this is what I'm going to do. They give me the data, I give them the results, and we talk about the utility, and ideally we're trying to see if they would give us money to build them software. So the front end is not developed. The back end is there and it's been doing well, and with 18 companies we are continuing to do that. At the same time, so you could sell this back end by putting the front end on it to these final businesses like Samsung directly. At the same time, we are talking with these energy management systems or energy management software that are out there to create a plugin for them, because these guys already monitor the total energy at each facility. So you can see what's the energy at the corporate level broken down into each facility. And then our plugin will come and tell them that for each facility, what's the breakdown at each production line. And so there's higher resolution to do that. Does that answer your question? It doesn't.
So does it work?
It's been working well.
How do you know?
Well, so we test it. So because my PhD is in the space of measuring the footprint of products at these, and so I check it with literature data. And we basically check for accuracy. So how accurate is the number that our algorithm gives for the energy used for that production line with respect to secondary data, literature data. And secondly, we check how accurately does the algorithm say that it's accurate. Is it a false alarm or is it a
so if I understand this correctly, this is Samsung making phones, and the Samsung phone line uses a certain amount of energy. They can measure that and see if you got the right answer, couldn't they?
They could, but to measure that, you would have to do one of the two options.
Just put one more meter in.
Exactly. So the phone does not only use one production line. It probably uses maybe 50 to 100 production lines, that phone alone. And so now you're talking 50 to 100 meters, and that's only for energy. If you're also interested in natural gas, or if you're also interested in emissions, then you're talking a factor of. And that's why the investment in meters is very high. A normal Honeywell meter would cost you somewhere around $200. But if you factor in installation, labor, and the fact that it has to be connected to the company database, it goes up to somewhere around $750.
So I'm not thinking about that, I'm just thinking about proving your value proposition.
Okay, yeah. So the answer is it works.
Stealing this. So say I'm a facility owner and I already have my meters installed. You're coming in and you're telling me that I should uninstall those, that your solution is better, or is it really just trying to add on those extra capabilities? Say I wasn't measuring something before. I mean, what is currently being measured versus what you're measuring?
What's currently, if you go to the previous slide, what's currently being measured is on the left. So I'm talking as a majority of businesses. That's the total energy at the facility level. So the highest resolution you have is which facility is taking maximum energy, producing maximum CO2, etc., etc. There are some companies out there that have sub-meters. These are just meters at production lines within. So say you have 500 meters within your manufacturing facility. There's some companies that are making that investment, but most are not, because it's a high investment up front and you don't know where to install. You don't want to put it in every production line in every facility. You're talking thousands of meters. And so this is where industry stands right now. To go there, we are helping them go there without going through the sub-meter route.
Just one quick question. What type of metadata do you need from a plant as you sort of take that meter input of electricity and energy uses?
So I'll take the data that is the total energy used by the plant, which is in that meter that the utility records. And then I'll take the data for their output from the ERP system, the output from each production line, and I use nonlinear regression and some machine learning such that it tells me how the marginal output. You got it. Okay.
Would you like to take any questions from the audience? Does anyone in the audience have a question? Yes, sir.
So, without putting all of the meters out there, you're trying to determine how much energy is used. Yes. So, how exactly do you make that?
And
how do I do that?
And please repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question is that how do I actually tell the energy breakdown at each production line without measuring that? And the way I do it is that I use I'm telling you partially the secret sauce, but I'm using nonlinear regression algorithms What that means is that, say you have a facility, and what's available on the facility is a meter, which is recording the total energy, and that's changing over time. And one of the major drivers for a manufacturing facility that causes the change is the production volume from each production line changing based on the demand. And so now we take two pieces of data. One is that data from that meter that already exists, the total energy varying over time. And then we take the output from each production line, which also varies over time, which is already in the ER. Obviously, those are costs. And that answers the question? Okay. Absolutely. So I'll tell you, we can get, for 90% of the products, 95% accuracy if the number of observations is over time is 5 times the number of production lines. So we've ran a lot of research. We're publishing this in a big paper right now.
We have time for one more question.
Yes, so we've checked it with secondary availability. Yeah, so that's how we check the accuracy.
We'll move this. One more question in the back. Yes, sir.
So when you don't have ERP data, say for an office building or a data center, have you thought of how you can substitute another data set to get to nonlinear regression analysis?
I'll be very surprised if the business does not.
Please repeat the question.
Yeah. So if I don't have ERP systems out there, or there's that data not available, then how do I manage? Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll be very surprised if the business does not record the amount that they produce. I mean, that's exactly their sales. Production, inventory, sales, whatever they take. And so I'll be very surprised if they may not have SAP to do that, but they'll have something that does that. And so we may connect to SAP, or we may connect to those Excel files. We can connect to them over time, and it becomes automated.
So now we'll move into the feedback session. So either anyone who would like to jump in, any order?
Yes, so I think to really grow as a company, you have to think about how large is the market you're really addressing and how much manufacturing can you touch. So I think one link might be to link yourself to regulatory and say some of the data you're generating of an overall carbon footprint of the product, is that really acceptable for a regulatory agency to say this is really sort of an LCA analysis. And then the other thing I'd say, if you really want to grow, can you go and use your algorithm and your experience on other assets, as how much energy does a hotel use, and can you give any recommendations what their peak usage is, and see whether you can build it that way, because you might have initial customers now, but how do you really grow from there and find applications for the algorithm based on the experience?
Just briefly, I'd say really good presentation, again, for all teams. Love how you talked about the team itself. And I think it seems like you're a bit further along. You have those beta customers. Definitely talk about that, as a proof point. Talk about that feedback. I think it's really positive.
All right, I think we're in the nerd center. You can say linear regression and not be ashamed of it. It's fine. Your universe of customers, this feels like a plug-in to other people's software, when I think about it. It's adding value to software that already exists right now, and I think it's adding actually meaningful value, but you have to think about what that means for you as a company. And are you going to own these customers, or essentially you're going to be sort of behind in the back of the software?
So one comment possibly addressing that is, would you be able to serve the suppliers of these Fortune 500 companies? So all the large companies require their suppliers, their vendors, to submit sustainability metrics to them. Could you essentially just sell to the suppliers and own that market? So being the bridge between the suppliers and the larger entity, whether it's Walmart or any of the companies that you listed, and then integrating neatly into the existing sustainability management or energy management systems that they're already using.
That's what we're doing. That's a scaling model. So all of our customers are integrating with that.
No responses here. You're just listening. Thanks. Okay. Awesome. I think that's all. Meaningful value we found here at Future Energy today. That is remarkable. So to vote for Sahil and LinkCycle, send a tweet with #FutureEnergy and @LinkCycle. Pretty straightforward spelling. And don't forget to vote for your favorite panelists. I think there's a tie right now between the top two. So be sure and listen to their advice and their feedback and tweet for whoever you think is the best. So second to last, Jim Nole of TelAztec, and then on deck is Erik Monostory of Renewables. So Jim, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm all set. My company is TelAztec. I'm a principal. We're a nanotechnology company. We're focused on developing interreflective microstructures. These are designed microstructures that have some optical function that we're etching or even replicating directly in the bulk optic. So we're designing these optically functional microstructures that we can etch directly into the surface of a number of different materials. Tonight I'm going to focus on anti-reflection. These anti-reflection properties are needed in a number of different optics and windows, controlling or suppressing reflectance or totally eliminating reflectance from the sun or from the sky on a variety of optics, ranging from high-end military optics, imaging systems are critical. Specifically, we're looking at photovoltaic applications. For photovoltaics, obviously getting as much light into the system is critical. The more photons that can reach the photovoltaic medium, the more energy out, no matter what the efficiency of the cell might be. The current technology for controlling reflectance right now for photovoltaics, in fact for all applications, are thin films, where they're actually depositing a number of different layers of a different material, thin films on top of the substrate that are designed to control reflectance. The problem with the current technology of thin films is that they work over typically a very narrow wavelength band. And a second problem with thin film AR coatings, anti-reflection coatings, is they work at normal incidence. When you think about photovoltaics, the sun is directly overhead. The AR coating will work well. Once it gets out to 50 or 60 degree angle of incidence, those AR coatings won't perform. They'll fall right off the map. So our technology replaces the need for thin film coatings by etching these structures right into the surface of the material. We've demonstrated unprecedented bandwidth performance. For photovoltaics, the ideal performance is to have a very wide wavelength band in which you're suppressing reflections from the UV all the way through the near infrared. So we've demonstrated unprecedented bandwidth performance from the UV 300 nanometers all the way up to 1800 nanometers, which is far out into the near infrared. We've also demonstrated unprecedented angular performance, where these structures naturally will work out to 60 and 70 degree angle of incidence, which means you're collecting light over a longer portion of the day without the need for tracking. A good example, if you can see in the photograph on the top, a good simple example is a dashboard display. On the left-hand side is an untreated surface, and on the right-hand side is our orange treated, our anti-reflective microstructure treated surface. The picture to the lower left is something we're working on right now, making these structures self-cleaning or hydrophobic. So we could do some secondary processing steps where we make these structures etch right into a glass window, for instance, super self-cleaning and hydrophobic, which is essential for many photovoltaics like CPV systems that are out in the desert, or even silicon cells that are on your roof. Our initial target is the low-hanging fruit, cover glass windows, for instance. We've had some very good success already etching our structures into cover glass windows. Okay?
Time. Round of applause. Okay, so questions for Jim?
So you've explained your technology. Perhaps you could just use a couple of numbers to say how much better it is than either non-AR coated glass or traditional AR coated glass. So sum it up, is it how many more kilowatt hours per day in a location of your choice?
That's something that's difficult for us to answer, but what we focus on, since we're not in the PV business itself, what we focus on is the interreflective performance, or the transmission that we increase through the glass window. So for instance, a glass window will lose 8% of the light from overhead reflections. We've eliminated that reflection and suppressed it down to about 0.1% over that entire wavelength band. So what we're doing now is shipping those windows to a CPV system who's using those windows for the module cover glass for the concentrator. And hopefully in short order, we'll have actual firm data as opposed to just model data that they've looked at, that if we're collecting that much more energy over that broad a band and over those angles, it equates to typically they're looking at 2 times the energy output from that system at the same efficiency. So we're not touching the efficiency. What we're doing is just collecting more photons over a broader bandwidth over a longer portion of the day. So we believe a good estimate is at least 2 times, but we'll know more shortly as we have this installation with our first customer giving us feedback.
So twice as many kilowatt hours per day. Okay.
Other questions from the panel?
Quick question, why PV?
Well, we've started looking at mostly defense. We're really more of a defense optics and high performance optics company. The technology was largely developed through some good SBIR programs that we've been developing with the military, various DoD programs. And the benefits we're seeing, this broadband and high angular performance, really lends itself perfectly to photovoltaics. We've been cautiously moving towards photovoltaics because it's a little risky for us to expand right now and buy the more equipment we need to address some of the potential production. So we're trying to move a little bit slowly towards moving towards commercial applications like photovoltaics.
Question, Mike?
So how difficult, I guess, is it to integrate into the current manufacturing process? And from that, what's your perceived business model? Are you going to be partnering with them? Are you going to go to the OEMs? Are you licensing? What ultimately do you see the business?
Well, two parts I'll answer. The manufacturing part for us is very straightforward. It's a single-step manufacturing process to etch these structures into a glass window, for instance. So cost-wise, it's very comparable to a thin film coating process with much greater performance and benefits. For a business model, what we're looking at is either one of 2 things, or a combination actually, where we're scaling up our own production capability, purchasing more semiconductor equipment that allows us to do larger throughput of these windows. We are getting some initial inquiries from this first customer who's overseas that they would like to license the technology from us so they could be handling or doing the production internally and avoid shipping windows, hundreds of thousands of windows back and forth. So we're evaluating both options right now.
What type of material can you etch? Is there a limit? You mentioned carbonate glass or regular glass.
No, I'm glad somebody asked that because we're not fundamentally limited to a certain material. We've done various types of glass from the photovoltaic community. They've asked us to look at various Corning glasses and shot glasses, and we have a process for many types of glass already in the books. From our military applications, we've developed a laundry list of infrared materials that are suitable, that we've got processes for etching these structures in. So inherently, we're not material limited. And we can also do even lower costs when we talk about replication, replicating into soft materials like films, solar films, or display films, where we make a single master tool with the appropriate microstructure and use that in a roll-to-roll embossing type process, or even a glass molding process. We've had very good success with.
Great, and so moving straight into the feedback form, what takeaway advice, what feedback would you like to give Jim for TelAztec?
So I think you did a really good job describing the technology. I think towards the end, it just seemed a bit scattered in terms of the various applications. So I think it's okay to say that there are many different applications that you have. Perhaps just focus on one and talk about some of those economics, that value proposition for that specific application. I think it really draws out some positive things.
To me, your partnering strategy seems key to me. Can you partner with a product provider, and is he willing to sort of give some margin to you for a product improvement? And I think that you need to clearly develop that value proposition, because otherwise, yes, the film is there, people know what it costs, In your case, you have to hand off your manufacturing probably to the other manufacturer if you want to truly scale. So how to maintain and extract that value for a potential investor, I think, is the challenge. Whereas on the smaller scale, defense type applications, I think you sort of can keep that in hand because you're talking about high margin, low volume. But if you want to really go volume, think about how you can protect your technology efficiently and really get enough of a delta to displace existing applications.
I would just echo the points about the business model. Your customers in the PV application would probably be the glass manufacturers, unless you want the PV manufacturers to be doing this on their own premises. This is all probably way in the future, but it's very important because there are a few glass companies and actually more solar companies. There's a little bit of a leverage thing between the glass companies and the solar companies, specifically in anti-reflective right now. Because there are only a couple of anti-reflective companies that they charge what they can get away with. It's quite a lot. So I would also encourage you to quantify that value proposition, especially for this audience. Like, why should they care? It's better than AR, but how much? It's better than no AR, but how much? Just give us something that we can get our teeth into as to why this is a leap forward in solar. But, it's very cool.
Final feedback, Faye?
I think that the value proposition is very clear, but I'm not sure why or if PV customers are the ideal first target market, because the majority of them right now are in distress themselves, if not bordering on bankruptcy. So is that who you want to get in bed with? But also making it more clear all of your potential target markets. It sounds like you have considered many others in optics and photonics, whether industrial applications, military, night vision glasses, and many infrared applications. So I think making it more clear what those options are and why you're deciding to pursue the ones that you are at the various timeframes, and whether there is a strategic partner that is able to shoulder some of the costs for the moment.
Perfect. Great feedback. So round of applause for Jim. If you'd like to vote for Jim at TelAztec, you're going to submit a tweet with #FutureEnergy and make sure you're including his handle, which is @Jim, the letter N and the number 9. So @JimN9. Okay, make sure you're also voting for your panel, which brings us to the final pitch of the evening. So we have here Rick Monostory, and he's almost Erik Monostory, and he is from Renewables Inc. And
thank you very much for the introduction. Go for it. Hi. Hello, my name is Erik Monostory. I'm the CEO of Renewables Incorporated. Energy is the largest commodity on the planet, and as the market seeks new ways to
hold that mic right up to your mouth.
As the market seeks new ways to diversify our energy portfolio, renewable energy will continue to grow as a major market segment. However, the problem with renewable energy is its cost, and in particular, the cost of installation, which accounts for nearly 50% of the all-in cost for the end consumer. Well, this presents an outstanding opportunity for Renewables Incorporated, which we plan to fully exploit. Our initial play is to enter into the small wind market, which became a billion, with a B, billion-dollar industry last year. And our offering is this: a customizable 1 to 5 kW prefabricated energy system with the ability to be pre-assembled off-site, delivered in the back of a flatbed truck, and simply placed on-site without the need of heavy equipment or cranes. The system is plugged in like any other energy system, off-grid, on-grid, doesn't matter. And once when it's plugged in, the system has the ability to telescope upwards and begin generating electricity instantaneously. We call this process place, plug, generate. Slide, please. One more. Now, in the interest of time, I'm only going to touch on a few of our key advantages. One, our prefab installation. Okay, it goes higher. Our prefab installation. Our place and plug method has the ability to reduce the all-in cost for the end consumer by approximately 25%. Safety. Safety is paramount. And because the system is dynamic, it has the ability to lower itself, to prevent wear and tear, and hedge against severe weather conditions. And finally, because the system can be placed, it can be placed on top of pre-existing infrastructure and commercial real estate, such as roofs, parking garages, just about anywhere that's flat and that can handle the weight. Adding value to the consumer's pre-existing assets. We're currently seeking around the financing, and I'll be, like I said, Mead Hall, just look for the tall turbine tower. Thank you very much. I'm Erik Monostory, Renewables Incorporated.
Nice job, Erik. Questions for Erik? Maybe Faye, the mic is nice and close to you, or Daniel?
First of all, that was incredible. I think
I got to thank
you
my mom
get
for not throwing out
some
my
real
Lego. It was
points
like
for
10
that.
years ago. Thank you.
So I am unclear about what your target market is. So who are you selling to initially?
Okay. Well, essentially, my technology is a wind turbine tower. Actually, this is patented. It's 8,146,219. I just got the patent in April. And my product complements wind turbines. And I've been working with Urban Green Energy, which is the turbines in the middle and on the right. And because my product complements theirs, I'm targeting to them, and in turn, I can inject my product into their distribution channels. So commercial industrial is where I want to go. I'll sell residential, but I really think the value is commercial and industrial because one, permitting is a lot easier. Two, they have access to resources, and generally commercial properties own more land than residential.
So just to pick up on what you just said, permitting is easier because?
Commercial permitting is much easier than residential. Height restrictions.
So you're making a wind tower that can go up and down.
And pivot as well.
And pivot. And once it's gone up, the rest of this stuff that got it up there stays, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a tower and I have the stuff that made the tower.
It's a prefabricated tower.
Okay, got it. Okay.
With an external base, that's how it's able to. Yeah.
Sorry, so what was the name of the group you're partnering with, the actual manufacturer?
Urban Green Energy.
Urban Green. So you're getting in bed with them, I guess. The question that I have for you is, what's their distribution plan? What's their sales plan? We see multiple sort of small wind companies sort of having trouble getting over the hump. I mean, what's their special sauce to help you out?
They're the largest vertical axis turbine manufacturer in the world. They sell their products in 50 different countries. They're based in Manhattan, and they manufacture their product in China. They're all over the place, and they have a wide array of distribution channels here in the United States and abroad. They're in 50 countries, and they're the world's largest vertical axis turbine.
What type of foundation do you still need into that box? I mean, you have it roll off the truck, but what type of groundwork do you need to do?
What do you mean by groundwork? You mean
to make sure it doesn't blow over.
Oh, okay. Well, the unit weighs about a ton. It's about 2,000 pounds. The base is concrete. Now, the question is, where can I put this? Okay. Our initial targets will be parking garages, essentially, because it's already designed to handle that type of tonnage, because cars park up there. Realistically, I built my prototype, which I just didn't have time to showcase, by just using recycled rocks, and I placed it down and was able to handle Hurricane Irene last year. So it really is, because of the external foundation, it's able to displace the loads. It's like basically standing like this, and someone trying to hit post is trying to stand straight up like a normal wind tower does. So really, it's not that much. The location has to be predetermined, but there's really not that much work that needs to be done for this tower to be sustainable. Again, because it is dynamic, it can lower itself so the torque at the bottom of the base is less, because it's force times distance. So at maximum height, it does.
And so does that add a lot of cost to the fact that you can actually, that height adjustment?
It really, Yes, the cost of the system is more expensive than the standard turbine tower, but you save the money on the installation process. That's where the key is. Installation is place your luck. It really isn't that complicated.
So what's the largest installation you have done today?
1,000 watts, 1 kW.
Okay, so let's move into the feedback now. So this is now the final feedback form. What takeaway advice would you like to give, Erik, and where should you go with Renewables Inc.?
Yeah, I think it's really about the target market. I think it was alluded to earlier, seeing how big is that residential or that small-scale wind market really, and do you add enough benefits? Because inherently your system is going to be more expensive. And then seeing whether or not, your system really does not need that anchoring, or, even if that vertical axis adjustment, if that breaks down, you still might have a problem because you don't have enough security in there, especially if you go into more residential areas. So I think that maybe a military application as an initial start, or emergency power, or easy to deploy power, I think that's where probably the lower hanging fruit is for this type of technology. And then as you sort of get some scale and experience there, then you might get into more, fixed permanent installations. But I think mobile renewable, in the defense type space or emergency power, I think that would be my first target market as a suggestion.
I guess this is just probably a follow-up from my question earlier. I mean, if you're not controlling your own destiny, just be really clear in the presentation itself, sort of the benefits of that. Because when you talk about their distribution capabilities, it's apparent that you're well placed. So just to emphasize that.
So a little bit of experience with the small wind market, and for turbines in the sort of 3-4 kilowatt range, you can put up a tower with a pickup truck. It's not super difficult. You do have to pour the footings for a concrete pad for the tower, but it feels like an elaborate solution, making something that is maybe simple but requires a little bit of labor, turning it into something mechanically complex with less labor. So it's not immediately evident that trade-off is worth it, but to bring that out.
So in thinking about your initial market, I would look at the off-grid power supply market, so providing remote power for telecoms, oil and gas, because that's a large, healthy market that is willing to pay significantly for solutions like this for portable power. Also, with the additional moving parts comes additional opportunities for things to break. So thinking about how is that monitored and when is it done? So does it connect to a communication system that tells you when something is wrong or not, and how difficult is it to fix?
Okay, and great feedback. So round of applause for Erik. And that concludes our investor feedback forum. So what we're going to do right now is watch the tower lower. Round of applause for that. And so we're just going to go into the feedback. We're going into the pitch showdown right now. So now is the last chance to submit all of your final tweets. Vote on the companies you'd like to vote for. If you're voting for Erik, it's @PrefabWind, and make sure including Future Energy. And all of your panelists here. Now's the chance. Graham's in the back tallying up all of the different counts. And just in a second, we're going to announce the winners. While we're waiting for you to submit your final tweets, I'm just going to make a few last announcements, the ones that I made during the pitch session here, the break. So again, October 29th, we'll be back here in Nerd. If you'd like to join us for the regularly scheduled Internet Investor Feedback Forum and Pitch Showdown. Future Energy New York, applications are being accepted, and that will be on November 14th. And again, the Cleantech Open Gala Awards. And Graham?
Awesome. We have some winners. So I'm going to announce the startups first, third place, second place, first place, and then I'll announce the panel winner. So come on up in front and accept your prize and accolades. So in third place, Gabriel Martinez of CleanCrowd. Gabriel. Second place, second most votes from you all tonight. Sahni of LinkCycle. Sahil. Running running from the back of the room all the way. It's a marathon. And the number one top startup, for your choice, is Scott Friedman of Greenavise. Scott Friedman, congratulations today. So, and really the ultimate prize of the day is the Best Panelist Award. Audience choice, your favorite of the audience choice for best feedback, and that is Willem Rensink of Shell GameChanger. We will see you all in the hall in about 5-10 minutes.
Yep, exactly. So we have a space reserved for the event, so if you just want to make your way in, look for a roped off area. It's very exclusive, so please make your way over, and hopefully we can continue to network and connect down there. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great evening, and see you back soon.
Thanks, Faye. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Willem.
Thanks, Trevor. Thank you.